After 8 years of prelude, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie finally released October 27th, 2023, and it was undeniably successful, grossing nearly $300 million worldwide. It was a movie truly made for fans of the franchise, new and old. There have been many critics of the movie, which is to be expected, but I personally adored everything about it. And that isn't to say I don't understand the critiques. It's not a movie for everyone, and that's perfectly fine. But that isn't what we're here for today. While the movie made the rounds of the theorist channels, we all knew going in that this movie was not meant to explain the lore of the franchise. It told its own story, weaving in old and new characters and drawing inspiration from the games and books to bring the audience a cinematic FNAF experience. Channels broke down the in-movie lore, pointed out Easter eggs and references, and some theorized about the sequel. But today, I would like to delve into what the movies can tell us about our in-game characters. Let's consider how often we commiserate over how little we know about some of these characters. And remember that Scott Cawthon was heavily involved with the project from beginning to end. These characters with new names and timeline placements are still similarly motivated and created by the same person who built the world of FNAF. I believe we can extrapolate a fair amount of character information from the movie and draw parallels to the games, which may help us feel that we know these characters a little better. This video will delve into Mike and Vanessa, and the next video will be examining Abby and Garrett, which will be uploaded April 5th. I will be neglecting William Afton and the missing children for a majority of these analyses to keep them a reasonable length, but if you would like another video delving into those characters, I am happy to do so. And of course, you'll have a better chance of knowing about my future uploads if you subscribe and turn on bell notifications. But without further ado, let's get theorizing. For those who haven't seen the movie, or just as a recap, this is a very brief summary of what happens in the FNAF movie. Mike Schmidt is our main character, and he is a down-on-his-luck security guard who was just canned from his job as mall security because he beat up a father, believing him to be a kidnapper. He needs a job fast or risks losing custody of his 10-year-old sister, Abby. Their mother has passed away and the father is out of the picture. We don't know exactly what happened to him. Mike goes to a suspicious career counselor who offers him a job working at Freddy's, being a night guard. This proves difficult for Mike as every night he takes sleeping pills and tries to relive the day his brother was kidnapped by somebody because he wants to identify the person who kidnapped his brother and hopefully find him. The second night on the job, he meets Vanessa, who is a local police officer. She discovers that he's been sleeping on the job and tells him, "Do not do that." Mike and Abby's aunt, Jan, is also trying to sabotage him so that she can get custody over Abby so she can get a check from the state. So she hires a crew to go destroy Freddy's. One night, Mike's babysitter doesn't come to watch Abby, so he has to take her with him, which also makes Vanessa angry. Abby entering the Pizzaplex is also when Mike really comes to understand that the animatronics are haunted with the spirits of children who went missing there many years ago. One spirit in particular fixates on Abby, and we come to find that the animatronics want to make her one of them. This spirit, who embodies Golden Freddy, confronts Michael in a dreamlike state, offering him the ability to live in a happy memory with his brother Garrett and his parents every night forever, as long as he agrees to give them Abby. In a moment of weakness, Mike agrees, but immediately realizes what he's just said and tries to take it back. At this point, Vanessa and him have a talk about what is really going on at the pizzeria, and she reveals that she is William Afton's daughter. Ultimately, Mike wants to go stop what is happening, and Vanessa is reluctant at first to help as she seems heavily under the influence of her father, but ultimately does end up helping out. Together, Mike, Abby, and Vanessa stop William from being able to control the children's spirits that are inside of the animatronics. William gets spring-locked into his suit after the cupcake bites him, and the spirits drag him off and close him away in one of the rooms inside of the pizzeria. During the fight, Vanessa does get stabbed by her father, William, and at the end of the movie is in a hospital, seemingly unconscious. Mike and Abby are safe and okay, and it is hinted at that they may visit the pizzeria again. Okay, end of movie. From what I've been able to gather through multiple viewings of the movie is that every major character actually represents two characters from the games. Vanessa is clearly a parallel to Steelwool Studios' Vanessa. She's a reluctant follower. Her name is literally Vanessa, and her outfit, physical appearance, and age all line up. That being said, there's a reason I've paired her with Mike rather than, say, Abby, who has some clear ties to Circus Baby and Elizabeth Afton. Sure, on the surface you could make the connection considering she is Afton's daughter, but I believe her character in the movie to more closely mirror Michael Afton from the games. Then, similarly to Vanessa, it's no question that Mike Schmidt is meant to represent Michael, though there is one glaring detail that makes him an incomplete parallel. He's not an Afton. Mike doesn't even know what Freddy's is at the beginning of our story, so he cannot fully encompass Game Michael's personality and motivations. And because so much of FNAF is about the duality of man, I think it's actually rather clever to create a narrative that forces these two sides of Michael to argue over how to handle loss and guilt, as well as work together to overcome Afton, who may as well be the ultimate symbol of living in the past. Not to mention, there's a lot of story to tell in FNAF, and having Michael go through the entire arc he has throughout the games would be difficult to show. Splitting him into two characters gives us the ability to see all of his growth laid out within the scope of the movies. Mike Schmidt is surprisingly more connected to Foxy Bro or Young Michael than the adult Michael we probably play as in many of the classic FNAF games. The connection is instantly made with the color story of Gray being present all throughout his wardrobe. He is hot-headed and he has a track record of being the one watching over his sibling when something awful happens to them. Mike S. adds a level of humanity to Foxy Bro that, while not an excuse for his behavior, does explain his temperament. Foxy Bro has been parentified while still trying to be a child himself. We never see Foxy Bro and Crying Child interact with a parental figure over the 5 days the game takes place, even at Crying Child's birthday party. Of course, in the movie, it seems Mike is roughly an adult by the time he takes over caring for Abby, but it's clear he wasn't in a position to take on raising a child. Back to Foxy Bro. While siblings are known to fight, Foxy Bro's actions seem born from resentment and a desire to escape his responsibilities, even if it ends up irreparably causing harm to his sibling. Another parallel between the two characters is regret for the choices they make regarding their siblings. While less of a direct mirroring, Mike telling Golden Freddy that the spirits can have Abby does loosely tie into the way Foxy Bro put Crying Child in Fredbear's mouth, mainly in the sense that it is a selfish act with harsh consequences that the character immediately regrets, which ultimately sets that character down a new path. Additionally, in the movie with Garrett, Mike is obsessed with correcting the past via lucid dreaming, which gives a whole new meaning to dream theory altogether. While it would be difficult to fit the movie's version of dream theory into the games, I do think the heavy focus on it does help confirm that we are playing as Michael in FNAF 4, and are in some way experiencing the guilt he feels over Crying Child's death. I even think the callback to the pill bottles is attempting to point us in that direction. We already have other evidence points that suggest this, but anything new we find is worth filing away. But to reiterate, these events lead to both Michaels experiencing regret, and from that point on, their characters' motivations change. We even see Mike S. have some similarly heartfelt lines to Vanessa as Foxy Bro has to Crying Child at the end of FNAF 4, which seems to solidify a new direction for the character moving forward. Now, while some have suggested that this turning point for Michael Afton in the games would lead him to turn against his father and try to right the wrongs of William Afton and free all of the lost souls, I believe Crying Child's death primes Michael to become a tool for William. He is a scapegoat for all that comes next, and the guilt he feels over his brother's death keeps him chained to his father and doing his bidding. This is when Vanessa takes over as Michael's parallel in the movies. It is my interpretation of Michael Afton that he is most certainly going behind William, doing his dirty work and cleaning up his messes, which is what we're seeing in the first 2 FNAF games. We see Vanessa accomplish this within the movies, as no investigation ever surfaces surrounding the deaths of Aunt Jan's wrecking crew. We can assume she's done the same for every security guard who has quit after a handful of nights at Freddy's. The relationship Vanessa has with William in the FNAF movie is what I believe the Michael-William relationship looks like in those later games. William shifts blame onto Michael
and help me clean up the mess that you created!
And uses threats to keep him in line. It may not even be that Michael fully understands what his father is doing, but he's terrified of what happens if he stops listening. There is evidence in the movie to suggest that William has tortured Vanessa in some way or made such harrowing threats that she feels if she tries to help Mike and Abby that it will end badly for them. She physically recoils at the idea of going with Mike to stop William and says she will be of no help, and she is very sure of that. Whatever William's threats, turning the animatronics against her, forcing her to become one of them herself, or some sort of torture a la didophobia, I believe the way Vanessa acts here can show us what an enormous hold he had over Michael in the games. This, of course, also mirrors the way Vanny came to be. Whether or not the movie is trying to tell us that the game Vanessa is literally Afton's child, which is unlikely in my opinion, it's clear her past traumas haunt her in a similar vein to Michael. Vanessa in the games is also a character who feels tremendous guilt over the death of a family member, her mother.
Your dad made you follow instructions, didn't he? I'm talking about the custody battle between your mum and your dad. Your dad didn't play it fair, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court. I suppose I don't need you to tell me it felt bad to have a parent scare you into saying things that weren't true. He manipulated you. It wasn't your fault. I know your mum. After she lost the custody case, I was supposed to be a good girl.
And it seems as if her father was happy to let that wound fester. Her vulnerability allowed her to become manipulated, and she became the new Michael, the new servant of Afton. You may have noticed that throughout this video, I've neglected something. I said every character in the movie seems to represent 2 game characters, but with Mike, I haven't said who else I believe him to be. Well, I believe he's Henry. It's seeded out that he is the son of someone William has a dark past with, enough so that he would drive into the woods just to kidnap and kill the man's son, which is similar to what happens in the Silver Eyes novels, which explicitly state it's Henry's child that gets kidnapped.
I believe the cassette tape at the beginning of the movie alludes to this fact, as well as Mike's theme of wearing green when he's not wearing gray, connecting him to Charlie, Henry's daughter. They are both similarly going to extreme measures to try to reunite themselves with a lost loved one. Both are consumed by that desire to such a degree that they make questionable choices.
Once Mike in the movies understands everything that has happened at Freddy's, he decides it must be stopped. He has to come to terms with the loss of his brother, and even if he wishes he could have done more, he cannot change the past. This parallels Henry accepting the loss of Charlie and choosing to put an end to everything. While there is not much new to learn about Henry from Mike in this movie, it is still important to note as it helps us understand the role Henry plays in Michael's story. Mike is the one who truly gets Vanessa to understand that she can help the spirits trapped in the animatronics, even if it means putting herself in harm's way. She knows at this point her father is a monster, but feels powerless to stop him until given agency through her desire to help Mike and Abby. This is similar to the way Michael chooses to end his own story in FNAF 6, partnering with Henry to do what they can to end the cycle of violence.
And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby.
To summarize, in-game Michael Afton grows up having to care for his brother, the crying child, since his father is buried in his work. This causes him to feel resentment towards his brother. He begins acting out and having no regard for the safety or care of his sibling. In an act of pure selfishness and maybe even for attention, he and his friends pick up the crying child on his birthday and joke about letting him give Freddy a kiss. The crying child is fatally wounded, and Michael instantly feels guilt and shame wash over him. William is angry at his son, not just for what he did to crying child. No, I believe he's more outraged at how this affects the Fazbear brand in the public eye. William worked so hard, and now his careless son has potentially ruined the pizzeria's image. Michael would pay for this. He would happily lord the guilt over his son, never acknowledging the part he played in all of it, never once reflecting on why his children were left alone, why no one was there to step in and help the crying child. He would threaten and potentially torture his son to keep him obedient. Michael would go on to try to earn his father's approval and atone for what he did to his brother and his father's business by covering up his father's crimes and making sure not to get in the way of his research into Remnant. Perhaps the only way he could ever see his siblings again. He's plagued by nightmares and replaying those events leading up to the party over and over again. Perhaps he was feeling fated to this life serving his father, seeing himself as irredeemable. And even after Michael spent years doing just as his father asked, he would not be spared from a fate worse than death when he gets scooped. However, something about sister locations seemed to shake off the blind loyalty he had given his father for so long. Maybe he begins to understand he has become so complicit that he and his father are practically indistinguishable. Maybe the way Elizabeth's soul had been so corrupted inside of Circus Baby, the way the fun times were all so desperate to escape their situation, motivated him to make sure they were all put to rest. He finally understands he can't keep trying to make up for his past. The future is all that's left now. He goes looking for his father and coincidentally finds Henry, who is trying to put a stop to Afton and free all of the spirits. And he joins him. Michael ultimately chooses to sacrifice himself rather than live forever as this immortal being. He knows what a horrible life it would be. The two work together to bring an end to everything. Or so they hoped. And that's it for this week's theory. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about Michael. I really do believe the FNAF movie solidified and expanded upon the way that I have felt about his character, and I really just wanted to share those thoughts with you. As always, let me know what you think and keep the conversation going in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it or if you just want to be nice and support me. I upload videos every Friday, and part 2 of this video will be going up Friday, April 5th. Whether you are a new or returning viewer who just has not chosen to subscribe yet, I'd love it if you would do so, turn on bell notifications, and become a part of the nervous system. I'd love to have you here. And for everyone that is already subscribed to me, thank you so much. You don't know how much I appreciate you all and love having you here week after week to spend some time with me.
I also briefly wanted to mention that I did my first collab recently with YouTuber Susannah Murphine. She invited me onto her show Info Dump to talk about VeggieTales. She already has an episode about FNAF, which you can watch now on her channel, and subscribe to be notified when the collab goes up at the end of March.
I also upload shorts and regularly post to my community tab. Those are great ways to see me in between videos. Like I said, I'll be back next Friday, but if you can't wait, there are videos on screen right now just for you. Okay, bye!